Don't leave me hanging. It's go time.
Hey everybody, this is Josh, and here we have Game 1 in a best-of-3 series between WhiteRa, the red Protoss up here in the top right of Xel'Naga Caverns, and his opponent, BratOK, the yellow Terran, down in the bottom left. This series was played for the round of 16 in the TL Open number 11 on the European server, and that also served as the TSL qualifier number 4. The winner of this tournament will get an automatic qualifying spot in the TSL, which is a much larger tournament with thousands of dollars in prize money. So it sort of works like a satellite tournament if you're familiar with the poker world, and that's kind of coincidental because the TSL is actually sponsored by PokerStrategy.com. So actually it makes sense that they would structure their tournaments and their ladder system based on poker sort of rankings. But either way, in this game we're going to see some nice TVP, some nice PVT, see what each of these players, WhiteRa and BratOK, choose to do against this race. So Terran players may gain some insight here, Protoss players may gain some insight as well. WhiteRa, of course, always very entertaining to watch, very fond of warp prism use. I would not be surprised at all if we saw some used here on Xel'Naga Caverns. BratOK, I actually don't know too much about other than he is extremely solid, always makes his presence known when he joins tournaments. He always ends up in the round of 8 or better. He's just very, very consistent. Might not have too many actual tournament wins to his name, but he's not quite as famous as WhiteRa either, just because WhiteRa's been around absolutely forever. And I'm pretty sure BratOK played Brood War as well, so both of these guys have been around a very long time. They're used to tournament settings, online or offline, and this one actually in particular is online, so they are playing from the comfort of their own homes. Now we're actually starting to get into the game a little bit. BratOK is going to be the first one to scout across the middle of Xel'Naga Caverns here with this SCV to find out what WhiteRa is up to. Of course, by the time he gets up there, he'll see nothing out of the ordinary. WhiteRa just doing the very standard Protoss build, and I know just from watching a lot of WhiteRa's games that he tends to get a robotics facility after that cybernetics core rather than a second gate and rather than 3 or 4 gating most of the time, especially against Terran opponents, because it will allow him to get an observer out if he fears cloaked banshees. It allows him to get an immortal out if he fears tanks or marauders, and it lets him get a warp prism out, which he just loves to use in general. So don't be surprised if we see that robotics facility coming soon. BratOK, on the other hand, not too familiar with his, TVP preferences. He is getting a second barracks right now, which makes me think he'll be expanding here shortly as well, possibly even adding on a third barracks and then slow teching up to medvacs once he has a large bio ball. We'll see what he's going to differ from that normal strategy, if anything. Concussive shells coming out first, along with this first marauder. A second barracks still going up. Nothing going on for WhiteRa right now. He is just chrono boosting his Nexus, still getting some probes out. Warp Gate tech has started, and this scouting SCV from BratOK is going to be chased out by this single Zealot. WhiteRa now going to be doing some scouting of his own with his probe over by the Xel'Naga Tower. Not going to see anything with that. What is BratOK doing? Looks like he is just scouting around for proxy pylons. Good spot to check back here behind these visibility blockers, as sometimes Protoss players will try to do mass warp ends back there and catch you by surprise. WhiteRa just going to glance past this natural expansion, see if there's anything there. There is not yet, but there could be soon. Check this out in the production tab. A Reaper actually being built as that probe goes down. Reaper being built here out of that original barracks with the tech lab rather than another marauder, so maybe he's going to be doing something where the Reaper actually jumps up the cliff to give vision to the Marines and the Marauders down on the low ground. Looks like a bunker may also be in the works, and a command center is coming up, so he is doing the 2 racks expand, which is a pretty common TVP build if you can get this early pressure to do some damage, or at least keep your opponent sort of tucked away in his base. That gives you time to expand. WhiteRa already sending another probe out. He lost that first one, but he does not want to fall behind in scouting information to BratOK. Couple of Zealots and a Stalker here. That robotics facility did come out first, and I don't believe he built an Observer or an Immortal, so Warp Prism is going to be the first thing he builds out of that robotics facility. Also adding on gateways number 2 and 3. That certainly helps, of course, having more production capability with that Warp Prism. The Reaper tried to poke up there, but WhiteRa not having any of that, just waiting around at the top of his ramp. He doesn't have any sentries yet either, so he's not going to be able to force field the ramp if BratOK gets a little more pushy. Warp Prism is out now. He's going to load up 4 Zealots and start his way around the map, the long way to BratOK's base. His command center should be done here soon. It is nearly complete. He's still only on 2 barracks. Surprised that he hasn't added a third one on yet. but now this command center is flipping over to an orbital command quite quickly. 4 zealots tucked away in this warp prism. WhiteRa soon to be arriving there. BratOK has a scouting SCV just hanging out, checking out everything there is to see. He'll see this Nexus coming down for WhiteRa, around 45 supply, 46 supply. Stalker already coming to go ahead and eliminate that SCV. We'll see if he does. I'm watching the warp prism on the minimap just to make sure he doesn't get there. I want to watch this SCV get taken out as well. If he can shoot one more laser beam at him, doesn't look like he will. So looks like the warp prism is now arriving. 4 zealots being dropped off in that mineral line. BratOK pulling his SCVs quite quickly, and at least one SCV did go down there. WhiteRa splitting up his forces a little bit, just trying to divide and conquer, while BratOK comes up here with his many Marines. WhiteRa just runs away here with 2 zealots still intact. Didn't really do too much damage, but this zealot's still alive with 4 kills, actually. Never mind, 4 kills is not bad at all for a single zealot to accomplish in his short lifespan there. So WhiteRa doing some harassment there, getting BratOK sort of on the back foot into a defensive stance. He's got all his units hanging out here waiting for that warp prism to return, even though it may never come back. He's now got it in his head that WhiteRa will be doing drops against him, so nice little psychological effect if nothing else. 30 harvesters for WhiteRa against 25 for BratOK, so WhiteRa looking pretty good on that front. Single medevac coming out of the starport for BratOK. Looks like he did do the slow tech to medevac, still working off of only 2 barracks, so still surprises me. Another SCV goes down. The zealots need to be microed a little bit. They're obviously not going to be able to take out all these Marines and Marauders. SCVs would have been the best choice there to try and attack, but the warp prism getting whittled down just a little bit more. He's probably just going to let those shields regenerate and come back here very soon. What is he doing back in his base? There is a Dark Shrine beginning here. A Twilight Council was dropped during that little harassment episode, and a Dark Shrine and a Templar Archives actually both being dropped. BratOK scouting around the map with his factory, obviously not intent on building any tanks or Hellions out of that thing, so he's just going to use it as a very slow, high HP scout to check out everything in WhiteRa's base. He's going to see this Dark Shrine. Too bad for WhiteRa. Dark Shrine is unveiled there. Twilight Council going to be seen as well, probably this Templar Archive, even once this factory gets all the way around that base. So WhiteRa not going to have any secrets from BratOK, except maybe an expansion. No, he doesn't quite have the minerals. I thought maybe he would expand there. Instead, nothing going on at the moment. A Reaper that we saw way earlier in the game that does have a single kill to his name hops up in this base, and it looks like a medevac full of Marauders is coming as well to try and do some damage against WhiteRa. Probes actually get us around on that Reaper. Quite good micro there from WhiteRa, but this 4 Marauder drop, does he have stim yet? Yes, he does, but he has not stimmed them up. Really wants to do that to take out this Dark Shrine. There he did, and now this Dark Shrine is going to go down, most likely. Yes, WhiteRa too slow to react to that. He's got a Warp Prism with a single Dark Templar. Actually did get created though, so WhiteRa going to be able to do some damage with this probably. There is not enough energy on this orbital command to do a scan. 2 SCVs go down, 3 SCVs go down. Doing picture-in-picture with BratOK's forces up there in the top. More SCVs, 7 SCVs already to his name. That turret does get completed though, of course, granting vision for all these Marines to clean up that Dark Templar. So good thing WhiteRa actually managed to get that Dark Templar warped in before the Dark Shrine went down. He's not going to be building another one actually. I was going to say he could already be making another one somewhere, but it looks like this time he's just going to focus on High Templar rather than Dark Templar, getting his Psionic Storm researched right now, chrono boosted out. He's still on, how many gateways do we have now? 4 warp gates already, and a 5th one being added on. This medevac here with 4 Marauders still just hanging out for BratOK, and he's sending an observer, WhiteRa is, around the edge of the map here, going to be able to check out everything as long as he stays away from this turret and away from this Raven. I'm not sure if BratOK fears more Dark Templar coming or not, or if he just built that Raven as a precaution when he saw that original Dark Shrine. WhiteRa also sending a probe around the back here, probably going to be building a pylon, as he does have 5 gateways now for warp-ins. Of course, that can be quite devastating. BratOK scouted here earlier with some Marines and Marauders, but never built a supply depot back there to see what was going on. That's kind of an interesting thing there. Usually players will build something behind their visibility blocker, but in this case, neither player is doing it. BratOK gearing up for a big attack. He is hanging out just outside of WhiteRa's natural expansion here. Kadarin Amulet being chrono boosted now. A couple of High Templar already on the field gaining energy, and they do have enough for Storm. BratOK is starting to move in now. He wants to get a stim going. There he does. A couple of auto turrets being dropped by the Raven as well. A couple of storms coming from these High Templar. Got a couple of kills, 6 kills on this High Templar, another Storm, killing off another couple of Marines. The Warpins continue, lots and lots of Zealots here being made. A single sentry for Guardian Shield, always an excellent choice as a Protoss player. It mitigates the damage from these Marines and Marauders by so much. Nothing going on down in BratOK's base. I did see that pylon down there, but WhiteRa was forced to use a lot of his Warpins just to be able to respond to this. And if you look at the production tab, 5 Marines and 2 medevacs coming out for BratOK. He's trying to replenish this army as fast as he can. An Archon was merged out of those Templar without any energy left. Zealots have charge, so they're going to be able to catch up with these Marines and Marauders, no problem. The Archon just floating around there like a giant energy soccer ball. Now we have some Warpins actually from WhiteRa to look at. Just a couple of Zealots trying to kill some SCVs there, and BratOK still has that medevac up there with 4 Marauders in it. He could have actually done a 2-prong attack there. Instead, he's just trying to drop one more auto turret with this 1 HP Raven. That goes down as well. So BratOK losing kind of a lot there. WhiteRa still at 100 supply, BratOK at 99. Neither player getting a huge advantage over the other. Both players still on 2 bases, though these High Templar are certainly going to make a difference here in these future engagements with Storms and feedbacks for these medevacs. Zealots with charge, of course, quite formidable as well. Both players, actually, gonna say both players have no upgrades, but these Zealots are at 0-0. The Marines of BratOK are actually at 1-0, so at least they have some upgrade to their name. Warpins occurring back here for WhiteRa, trying to defend this pylon. He is going to be able to hack up a couple of Marines and head back into the mineral line of BratOK, but he does have a lot of Marines and medevacs already waiting here. I'm surprised he didn't move them over to that visibility blocker right away. Mule going to be focused down first. Of course, that is a great decision, as that costs energy out of that orbital command. A couple of medevacs up here look like they dropped some Marauders, perhaps, but didn't really achieve anything there, and WhiteRa was ready for it, defending quite easily. Now this pylon is going to be taken out by BratOK. Kaboom. Warp Prism loaded up with 2 High Templar right now, so WhiteRa is going to be trying to do some Storm drops, perhaps. Don't forget this medevac up here with the 4 Marauders. BratOK seems to have forgotten totally about it. Actually, I'm going to take his control groups and see if he even has it in a control group. He actually doesn't. So that medevac may just be wasted supply for BratOK for the rest of the game. He doesn't have it in a control group, so he may have just totally forgotten about it, and now he's focusing on other macro things. Ghosts coming out now for BratOK, that's important to note. These High Templar are going to be dropped off before the Warp Prism goes down. Good Storm right there, splatters 3 Marines with that stim. Single SCV killed there. Some Marines might go down here at the second Storm. The first Storm wasn't going to do it, but the second one managed to take out a couple of them there. Now an Archon being formed out of those 2 empty energy High Templar. Is he going to be able to get any kills before being just slaughtered? No, he is not. It did say he had 6 kills, though. It must just retain the kill count from the 2 Templars. So 6 kills from that little drop out of WhiteRa. Big gas investment, though. Let's look at the Harvester count now as WhiteRa takes this 3rd base on the far left side of the map. 60 Harvesters against 48. Looks like WhiteRa has a bit of a gas advantage, maybe just a slight one, and actually still doesn't have a mineral advantage thanks to Mules. But WhiteRa is now starting to move a little bit. He does have Colossi on the field now, as well as these High Templar with full energy for feedbacks or Storms. On the other side, BratOK has 5 Ghosts out now, so it looks like we are getting into the late game here of TVP. When you see Ghosts versus High Templar, that is usually down to a micro battle. Who can get the EMP or the Storms out first, or the feedbacks out first in the case of Ghost energy. Armory coming up now for BratOK as well, so he looks like he wants to perhaps get some Thors going, or some vehicle weapons, maybe even ship armor or something like that to protect these medevacs, but feedback obviously ignores armor. Anyway, WhiteRa bouncing around his 3rd base. He does not want BratOK to know about it, but he might have just given it away by the way his army is postured there. SCVs are under attack. We have more Warpins coming from WhiteRa. Looks like he did sneak another pylon down here at some point, but BratOK should be able to deal with this. He's got a lot of Marines here to go ahead and take that out. WhiteRa moves in. What did he just do there? Did he feedback something? It looks like he may have feedbacked a Ghost here down to 0 energy. But, no, he didn't feedback, or he'd be dead. Never mind. I'm not sure what happened there. But WhiteRa is starting to move now. He's got a couple of Colossi, a couple of Archons, some High Templar, very slow High Templar bringing up the rear, but 6 of them not to be messed with. WhiteRa looking to perhaps do a killing blow here soon. He's actually supply blocked as well, 163 over 158 after losing this pylon down here to this roving band of Marines and Marauders. And it looks like BratOK knows this is coming, but since his army is so far out of place, he's trying to do a counterattack. I'll go ahead and put him in the picture-in-picture if he ever reaches WhiteRa's natural. But bunkers going down very quickly to these Zealots. High Templar dropping storms here on the bio forces. Haven't seen any feedbacks yet, but storms doing quite a good job. Archons moving in here, tanking a lot of damage. Zealots carving up the mineral lines here. Colossi just sitting in the back, having fun, toasting Marines and Marauders. BratOK is starting to do a little bit of a counterattack now, but he's lost so much already at his natural, and he's just now trying to expand to that 3rd location. I don't think he's going to be able to get any workers there, as he will probably lose a lot of buildings here to this giant force from WhiteRa. Moving up the ramp now with his many Archons, Zealots, and Immortals. BratOK just GG's. He realizes his counterattack's not going to be strong enough to end this game, and that poor lonely medevac up in the top right, still full of 4 Marauders. Who knows what he could have used that for? Probably something better than what he did. But that was Game 1 in a best-of-3 series, so now let's go to Game 2 and see what these players have in store for each other.